for 12 years, and though she had spent all she had on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his clothes, and immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" And when all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surround you and press in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I noticed that power has gone out from me." And when the woman saw she could not remain hidden, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking, someone came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher any longer." And when Jesus heard this, he replied, "Do not fear. Only believe, and she will be saved." And he came to the house and didn't allow anyone to enter in with him except for Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. They were all weeping and wailing for her, but he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but asleep." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and called out, "Child, get up." Her spirit returned, and she got up at once, and he directed them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them to tell no one what had happened. And this is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
It is my blessing to be at Oakmont Presbyterian this morning. This church has a very long, faithful covenant relationship with the Presbyterian Home for Children. I actually met Pastor Paul and several of you right after I started back in November, as we had a Christmas decoration, decorating the campus for Christmas. And so I know, I'm a new kid on the block, so to speak, but that this church is committed with love and support and prayer. And so from all of us at the Presbyterian Home for Children, we bring thanks and love and a grateful heart. I was recently interviewed at Cahaba Brewing on a YouTube TV series called Living True and Truly Living. And we were talking about our secure dwelling program, which is homeless children and their moms. And I actually asked the host a question while we were in the bar. I said, "Do you remember the first miracle at the wedding in Canaan when Jesus turned the water into wine?" And of course, she remembered that. But then I asked, "What happened before that?" And she looked at me, and I said, "Well, here's what happened before that. Mary told the servants, 'Whatever he says, do it.' Whatever he says, do it." And I really believe that the Lord will speak to all of us today. Our job, our responsibility is whatever he says to do it. This life and walk with Christ is about listening and obeying. We have just read Luke 8, 40 through 52. So let's set this up. Jesus, right before this, has just calmed the storm with the disciples in his boat with a simple "peace out." Then he cast out a legion of demons out of a man living among the tombs. And here this man is healed and blessed, dressed, sitting at the feet of Jesus in a right mind. So, right there you would call that a good day. Call it a day, but not for Jesus. He's only begun. So you got the crowds gathering, everybody expecting Jesus, and then here comes a synagogue leader named Jairus, and he falls at his feet. He's desperate. His only daughter of 12 is dying, and so he pleads for Jesus to come to his house. So he knows where to go and who to find. And so we see the heart of a father for his daughter. Whatever it takes, he finds Jesus face to face. And he begins to plead with Jesus, like knocking on a door. And he's not going to give up. But then something else happens as Jesus is walking through this crowd that almost crushes him. Somehow, some way, here comes a woman that's been bleeding for 12 years. Interesting. She's been bleeding for 12 years, the entire life of this 12-year-old girl who's dying. Now, no one is able to help her, and we can't exactly figure out how she's able to get through this crowd in all of her pain. But yet, she does. And she comes up behind Jesus and touches the hem of his garment, and immediately her bleeding stops. Then Jesus says, "Who touched me?" And of course, everybody denies it. And Peter says, "Hey, Jesus, everybody's touching you." But, Jesus is not going to be denied, because he said, "Somebody has touched me, because I know the power has gone out from me. I felt it." Can you imagine the power coming through those threads? Those threads were like an interstate power line, taking the power of Jesus right to this woman and to her faith. So she had no place to hide. She came to Jesus trembling and said why she had touched him, and she had been immediately healed. So then Jesus calls this unclean woman daughter, an unclean woman for bleeding for 12 years, and he looks at her and says, "Daughter." Tells her her faith has healed her and to go in peace. Jesus is all about peace. So he's speaking peace over storm. He's speaking peace over this man full of a legion of demons. He's speaking peace over this woman. What kind of faith did she have? That if she would only touch the hem of his garment, that she would be healed and touched by the Son of God? I truly believe that if we knew the power of God available to us individually, and we knew the depths of his love for us individually, I believe we'd run to him every day. That nothing could stop us. Now, what is going on with Jairus? He's not giving up on Jesus, but yet we hear from the house that, don't bother the teacher any longer. Your daughter is dead. That sounds pretty final. How's Jesus respond? Again, with peace. He looks at him and says, "Don't be afraid." He's speaking peace to the Father. Just believe and she'll be healed. So Jairus takes Jesus to the house even though he knows his daughter's dead. And then, of course, we know what happens. He grabs this child by the hand and says, "Get up," and she does. So here we have two real-life stories of faith interwoven into the life of Jesus at the same time. A woman trying to get to Jesus, expectation that as she stretched out to Jesus and touched the hem of his garment, that she will never be the same. But we got a different story. We got this 12-year-old daughter that's dying, and she's not able to get to Jesus. She's dying. So what happens? Her father is determined to stand in the gap. He extends his faith for his daughter. So it's different. It's taking a person, someone else, for this little girl. Someone with a heart for his child, someone willing to put everything else aside. So he knows that Jesus can heal her. He doesn't give up. What kind of faith does he have for his daughter? What kind of heart? When at-risk and homeless children at the Presbyterian Home for Children come to us, so many have experienced severe abuse, neglect, and at times starvation. They've experienced fear and trauma, and hope for their future has eluded them until they come to the home. When I was installed as president of the home back in February at First Presbyterian Talladega, I came off the stage at the end of my message. I'm not done yet, continued, but I picked up a beautiful African-American 2-year-old little girl and picked her up in my arms and kept on preaching. Her name is Journey, and she and her mother Sherry were living in a car in Atlanta with everything in black plastic bags. That was their suitcases. Homeless, yet in God's eyes, immeasurable value, great purpose. And because of individuals like yourself, churches like Oakmont, partnering with us, we were able to get Journey and Sherry and all of our other children and moms and young adults and families onto a path of hope. Sherry now has a job. Journey is in Head Start. Both are safe, both secure. We basically surrounded them with the love of Jesus at the Presbyterian Home for Children, a place that was birthed in the heart of God and planted in our home, Talladega, right down the road, 150 years ago. This is our birthday. We're celebrating the whole year long. And we're celebrating a legacy of love. We are caring for and empowering both child and mother in our secure dwelling program, each on their own level, as we move the moms toward a path of independence and giving the child a place to rest, play, grow up, and be educated. Unlike really anything else in the state that I'm aware of where we're able to keep children and moms together. The average age of a homeless person in Alabama is 6 years old. 6 years old. It's unbelievable. And in our great state that we love, we are unfortunately number 50 out of 50 in caring for homeless children. It's unacceptable. And something has to be done. And so we're doing something about it, and we're hoping people will follow. So when homeless children and moms come to the home, then all of a sudden hope becomes real. Hope begins that day. Hope is ahead. It's a path of hope. Over the last 6 weeks, we've taken in 3 homeless moms. One with 7 children, one with 3, one with 2. We're also providing hope to 13 to 17-year-old girls in what we call our moderate care program. This is a residential therapeutic treatment program under DHR. These girls have been taken from their families for a reason. They have suffered abuse and neglect. Most of them have been stepped down from an intensive program, which is a lockdown hospital type setting. And healing is found at the Presbyterian Home for Children for them. We help raise their level of self-esteem and improve their decision-making and discover methods for building healthy relationships. My first week when I started, I wanted to be with these girls. I wanted to connect with them. I did not want to meet them like in a church setting or some other place with a bunch of people. I wanted to meet them with me in blue jeans and kind of eyeball to eyeball. I wanted them to meet Mr. Doug. As I walked up those steps, I had no idea what I was going to say. And I called out to God as I walked up those steps. And I walked in. They're in Robinson Cottage. They were bouncing off the wall. So we ultimately got around the dinner table, and they told me a little bit about each of their stories. I was determined to learn every one of their names that night. And then the Lord did give me something to say. And what I said was this: I know you don't know me, but I need you to trust me this much, that I'm for you. That I'm for you. Just trust me this much, that I'm for you. And that was the beginning of a relationship with these girls and the girls that have come after that. Because, yes, I'm president, but I'm also a shepherd. I'm also a pastor. And I'm also a father to the fatherless. And I don't miss any of their birthday parties. Our support for children in both moderate care and secure dwelling, we have a wonderful educational experience. Fully accredited school, Ascension Leadership Academy. It in the past has been called Hope Academy. We simply changed the name. It's K through 12. It's located at First Pres of Talladega in their educational section. We had a special gift recently, and we built a playground behind the school with a big Noah's Ark that was built by the Amish. and huge. And when they rolled it off on that rollback trailer, he said, "This is where you want it, because this is where it's going to be." I'm like, "This is where we want it." And so we opened school this past Monday. We're also providing hope for homeless young women 19 to 24 in what we call transition to adult living. This is where these are homeless young females without children. And they are all enrolled at Talladega College, but we're also working with them on life skills. Many of them come from extreme poverty, dropped through the cracks of life. They could have been abused. Some don't even know how to drive. But we are providing hope and a future to them as well. We actually had 2 graduate from Talladega College this past May. We're also providing a future to families through what we call Family Bridges program. This is an intensive in-home counseling program covering 7 counties where we focus on family preservation and reunification. So we're touching children and families off campus as well. We have a supported housing program that provides affordable short-term housing to women and children in our ministry, again, on their road to independence. We have a ministry up in Sheffield. It's called the Sunrise Center. It's a day shelter, and it's for the homeless, men, women, children, a place that had plenty of night shelters that homeless are taken care of in the Sheffield area, that kind of quiet area at night. But there was nothing for them during the day, regardless of temperature. And so we provide hot showers, a kitchen with food, laundry, place to rest, computers, life skills on the go, and a place for them to get their mail. So I've thrown out a lot of programs, but what we're doing, in short, is we're giving away the love of Jesus to people, to children, to young adults, to moms, to families, and helping put them on the path of hope. So this past Thursday, we were at the Presbytery meeting down in Auburn at the Korean church, and the Presbyterian Home for Children was the recipient of a very generous gift, which some of you were at this meeting. The Presbyterian Manor apartments in Tarrant were sold, and they're preserving that ministry and keeping those residents there with HUD subsidized rent, so they're staying intact. But they were able to sell the property, and they netted $600,000, and we were able to get $300,000 of that. We didn't ask for it; they came to us. So the reason they came to us is that they heard we had a plan, that we had something special going on in our backyard, and we do. We are right across the street from the Alabama Institute of the Deaf and Blind, AIDB. School of the Deaf, School of the Blind, Helen Keller. This is an organization that's like 170 years old. We're 150 years old. Really never done anything together, and now we are doing a lot together. See, AIDB is able to house their students, but not their graduates. And so there are so many deaf and blind in Talladega because they go to school and then they go to work in the industries and then they live in Talladega. And unfortunately, they live in deplorable conditions. And I've seen this one with my own eyes, and it broke my heart. They are being taken advantage of, unclean, unsafe, gunfire, you name it. And plus, they're being held hostage to very high rent. So what we're doing is, in our backyard, back at the campus, we are creating a tiny home community for the deaf and blind. And it's going to be safe, secure, affordable. And we've already moved them into a couple of facilities that we had, and the facilities are more like dorms. The tiny homes will be separate, and it'll be one community together. There'll be pathways. We'll have a pavilion, a place of peace, but also they'll be able to help each other. But ultimately, so one, it's pure ministry. Pure ministry. Two, the rent income that's coming from this for the next, these buildings are, designed to last 35, 40 years before they would have to have some major renovations. But that rental income after our maintenance cost will flow back to the home as another revenue source for us to support our core ministry, which is children. It'll always be children. But we're having to be a little creative, and we're seeing that the Lord is redeeming our backyard to take care of somebody else that is close to the core of his heart, and that's the disabled. And I came from the disability world, and so for me to be able to work with at-risk and homeless children and their moms, and for me to have an opportunity to work also with those with special needs and the blind, the deaf, again, is God's using all of that for his kingdom. The deaf and blind is one of the biggest unreached people groups in the world. And so we're very excited. All of that money, $300,000, none of it's going to operations. None of it's going to any other thing but to build these homes. So we're very excited. In Matthew 19:4, Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Now, these are red letter words. I'm going to say them again. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And as president of this home, I want to see the kingdom of heaven in the lives of every child, every individual that's impacted by the home. I want to see it down to the depth of my heart. I'm surrounded by a staff with over 100 years collectively of serving children. And I'm bringing down the average. I've only been around 8 months. But when people have to see hope, they have to have hope. It's like oxygen, or they give up. And we are all called to be light. Light here in Hoover, light in Talladega, and across Alabama and beyond. Back in January, when we had all the storm, the ice, snow, it was happening here, happening in Talladega. Nobody could really move around. So staff that were on campus got stuck. Staff that were off campus couldn't get to us. So we have all that planned out. I live on campus there during the week, and so I got to do something that I heard my dad talk about doing all his life. He used to walk to school in the snow. Well, I walked to work in the snow because I couldn't drive either. So I got over there. Nobody is in the Bell Administration building. It's just me. So I was going to get a couple things done. Then I started getting hungry. And so, wow, maybe I could catch a meal over at Robinson Cottage